Hello, everybody. It's Mahadeva, OG Thunder Wizard. All right, so I want to talk to you about how we can dial in the perfect dimension to live in this life. And so, I'll be sharing my thoughts about that. This came as a result of a question that was asked to me. I can't remember where. I think it was on the Patreon, the thunderwizard.com. I'm pointing to nothing right now. The thunderwizard.com subscription site. And I believe somebody asked me a question about their soul desire. So let me give you some background in case you're new to this idea that I share. I have the life of my dreams. I'm always looking to improve, so I'm not going to say that I couldn't improve on what I have because I'm selfish and I want the best. So I want to continue to improve. Every day I ask myself what I want more out of life, and I take actions to bring those to me as best I can. And what has come my way has been amazing. I'm not going to brag. You've probably heard it before, what it is I have in my life, but it's quite unbelievable. If you look at where I was at just 2-3 years ago, huge changes. Right, so what I teach is that you are born for two express purposes, only two. So this will simplify your life. If you want to know, why am I here? What is my purpose? What is God's will? Whatever it is. Sorry, this is bothering me. All right. All of that stuff. I'm going to make it real simple. There's only two reasons why you came into this life. You are an infinite soul being. All right? Nobody created you. You have existed eternally. And you have existed eternally as a being of light. You, at your essence, you are infinite. You are all-powerful. You are all-knowing. You are infinite energy. And you are light. Your essence is that of complete, utter bliss and joy. That is your essence. Now, before you incarnated, this was a choice. So bear in mind, everything in life is about assumptions. I mean, somebody asked me, is this political or spiritual today? Well, I'll do my best to stay out of the political realm. I've already made 2 political videos. But if I were to start talking about what's going on politically, I would say that it's all based on assumptions. So if you understand what your assumptions are, and if you choose to change your assumptions, that will change, at the very least, it will change how you interface with your reality. So here's my assumption that I have proven to myself in practical life. You can choose to accept it or reject it. It's completely up to you. I make it available to you to decide whether or not this will help you. The assumption is that you are an uncreated, infinite being of light. You are God. That is your essence. So there's no need to look outside of you for God. You already are God. The only thing that you need to do is to simply align yourself to your original essence, your original frequency. You're already there. So why would that infinite, perfect being of bliss, why would that being want to incarnate? Comes here for 2 reasons. First reason is it wants to experience its essence, which is joy. Now, because this is a 3-dimensional space-time matrix that reality is, the universe. It doesn't mean, bear in mind, listen, I didn't say it was unreal. It's very real, but it's a matrix. It is a manufactured matrix that you, in fact, created so that you could have this video game called life. And your infinite, blissful self, it gets kind of bored in eternity because there's nothing to accomplish. So it wants to experience three-dimensional, limited space-time so that it can actually achieve and accomplish itself. So you came here to experience your true essence. Now, if that were easy, then again, it would be boring. So, three-dimensional space-time, in order to keep you from just incarnating and then going, all right, I'm incarnated, okay, now I've got control over this video game, let's make it perfect. You get bored immediately. It would just, I've got a video game that I love playing, Super Punch-Out, on my Nintendo Switch. And that's something I played 30 years ago. And, I played it again, and I had to teach myself it again, and then I remembered, and then I mastered it, and now it's just boring because it's too easy. So you came here to experience your essence of bliss and joy, but you had to give yourself some challenges to overcome in order to appreciate it. Like I said in the beginning, I'm living my fantasy, and I'm always improving it, and I'm aware of how amazing it is that my life is. And I work really hard to stay aware so that I don't get complacent or that I don't get wrapped up in, politics or whatever it is that drags me down and makes me, not realize, hey, my actual reality is very amazing. So you have to have something to overcome to experience that. This is what is called karma. So in the Vedic tradition, you have karma and dharma, and people get these mixed up. So karma means works, and dharma means destiny. Now, you're not required to live out your destiny. That's why it's a video game. You're not required. Your destiny isn't going to come find you and make you live it. It will, depending on your karma, might make itself really known, and it might really pull you towards it. If you listen to your soul, it might be easier for some people than others. So if you're listening to me and I'm telling you that you're this being of bliss, and you have all this control over reality, and you don't have that experience, and you ask the question that people ask me almost all the time, which is, if I'm this infinite being, why would I come to this horrible place? Some people, your challenges are more difficult than others, and I don't want to minimize that. The truth is that it means that you have the opportunity to experience even that much more bliss and joy. But the odds are against you. And we'll talk about that. All right, so the two reasons that you came here, number one is to experience your highest experience of joy and bliss. The second is to work through the karmic challenges that you yourself have either consciously or unconsciously created. So I want you to look at lifetime, at human incarnation, not as a one-time thing, like you're told in Abrahamic religions. It's not a one-time thing. You have incarnated hundreds, if not thousands of times. And so there's your soul, when it signs up for the first time, says, I'm going to sign up and I'm going to do this human thing. It knows that there's going to be, many, many incarnations. And it's thinking about the end result. And so you have an opportunity in each lifetime to make the conscious decision to actually refine the frequency at which you operate. And if you choose to operate at a frequency that is not your optimal frequency, which is the game. The game is designed to stimulate you so that you will do exactly that. You will go off of your most ideal frequency, and that's the fun of it. The game is to, it's like, it's like one of those car driving games. The game is to stay on the track and not let anything, distract you. But that's what happens. As you're going through, you get knocked off and you have to find, you have to steer back onto the track, right? This built into it, so just expect that. But karma is a result of, in previous lifetimes, you came here and it's a new video game for you. Your first time incarnating, it's like the first time playing a video game. You're there to learn. You're going to make mistakes all over the place. And so every mistake you make, which is not a sin, there's nothing wrong with it, but every mistake you make takes you off of the ideal pathway for you. And so the challenge is to get back to that ideal pathway. And this is through integrity. Your integrity is the most powerful tool that you have. The integrity to stay within your highest infinite essence. Now, that's the goal for everybody. For some people, depending on their specific lifetime that they've chosen to live, depending on their specific lessons that they've chosen to overcome, and depending on the mistakes that they made in previous lifetimes, that will determine how challenging it will be for you to get yourself back to that ideal vibration. So patience is something that we need to learn. We learn patience in spiritual disciplines. Spiritual disciplines is about being consistent. So that means, right now what I do is I've got, as many days as my body can handle, I'm in the gym and or surfing. Hasn't been a lot of surfing lately because the weather here in the summer, it gets really windy, and so I don't get to surf as much as I want. Well, I choose not to because I don't want to go out in crappy, windy weather. But my discipline is I'm in the gym as often as my body will allow, and I train as hard as I possibly can. And then after that, I come home and I do an hour of my energetic practice, which I've shown you guys. I'm looking for it right now, which looks like this. Hang on, it's coming. So I do these exercises for an hour until I'm dripping with sweat and or I just can't simply move anymore. So I'm asking a lot of my physical body. But that's discipline. The discipline is I do that every day. And then I have my meditations afterwards. I do that every single day. Some combination of everything I just mentioned. The discipline, doing it on a regular basis, not how much you do. I do all of that because I like it. And I like the effects I get from it. And but the discipline is doing it consistently. So any of you who've gotten a Vedic astrological reading from me, I gave you a mantra discipline ritual based on your chart. And the idea is that you do that every day. And you do that every day, that is your form of discipline. So the discipline gives you the patience. The discipline gives you the patience to handle the challenges of your karmic lessons. Your karmic lessons are, I'm trying to think of a good example, but your karmic lessons, they have two vibrations going on. I'm trying to describe it as best I can. Imagine in the middle is where you want to be, but you have these two vibrations that are trying to pull you in one direction or another. And so the discipline keeps you right smack dab in between them. So the idea is to stay centered within your authentic self, while the challenges of your karma are stimulating you. Now, the challenges of your karma are going to be your emotional impulses, your emotional reality. And what the point I've been trying to make in the past couple of videos where I've gone off about what's going on politically is that people are just completely operating from their emotional impulses to such a degree that they're incapable of even being willing to see the truth. And, part of discipline is doing something that's challenging that your impulses are telling you not to do. When I'm in the gym and I'm lifting as hard as I possibly can, and my muscles are burning and screaming, every impulse in me is telling me to put that weight down. And my discipline says, no, 2 more reps. And I push myself past that. That's the discipline. So I do that for all kinds of ego purposes and health purposes, but I also do it because it's a meditation. Because every time that every impulse in my body is telling me to stop, put that weight down, stop doing that, and I push past it and I do an embarrassing thing, which, in some gyms it's okay, but here they don't do that. And and I make one of those noises, everybody looks at me. It's embarrassing. I can't help it. That is because I am teaching myself how to take an action completely contrary to all of my impulses. Because the growth that happens, that snaps you back into your ideal frequency, is discipline. Like I said, if it were easy, it would be boring. Your soul wouldn't want to do it. It's boring. Your soul enjoys the challenge. You experience that challenge in many different ways. You can experience that challenge as utter, complete heartbreak. You can experience it as frustration. You can experience it as murderous rage, suicidal depression. To the soul, that is a challenging experience. Just like when my muscle fibers, my muscle fibers are screaming, stop, I'm dying. And I say, no, you can do it. And afterwards, I appreciate what it does and how it feels. Your soul is like that. Your karmic challenges are going to be your conscious experience to some of you, some of the stronger ones of you, absolute, utter, complete hell. The worst thing you can possibly imagine. I can't survive it, you say to yourself. But your soul says, no, you can. And if you discipline yourself to take the appropriate action, regardless of the impulse to jump off a cliff or to yell at somebody or to stick a needle in your neck or, storm the Capitol, whatever the hell your impulse is, your soul says, no, you don't have to act on that impulse. Act on what you know is true, is the highest vibration. That takes discipline. So this is what spiritual practice is all about. All of the stuff I teach in the 90-day challenge, all of that stuff does very specific things. I go to the gym, gives me bigger muscles, it gives me, I do the energy work, gives me power in my hands and all kinds of stuff. But those are the specific carrots that your soul dangles in front of you. But really what it's wanting to do is it's wanting to teach you how to be in your highest frequency and to take conscious action towards that highest frequency, regardless of whatever impulse you're experiencing, or regardless of whatever external impulse you're experiencing. Right? So the 2 things you're here to do is to experience your greatest joy, and the second one is to overcome the obstacles that you yourself have manufactured. Now, sometimes you've consciously created some of these. You've come into this life with a physical challenge, a mental challenge, a psychological challenge, an emotional challenge, a lifestyle challenge. You're born in a third world country, you know, whatever challenge, sometimes you've chosen that. Now, if you knew that going into it, again, it would be boring for the soul. So people say, why would somebody want to choose to be a one-legged baby in East Africa? I don't know. I'm not them. Ask them. I don't know. But whatever challenge you've chosen to create for yourself, it's either as a result of a conscious decision that you made as a soul, and you said, you know what, there's this one thing I want to master, and so what would be, okay, yeah, I need to be a bald-headed white guy in Australia, whatever. Bald-headed American living expat in Australia. Whatever it is that you consciously choose for yourself. If it's not consciously chosen, if that's possible, then that's because in previous lives you didn't stick with the discipline of following the vibration of your soul and you let yourself go off. Maybe you indulged. Maybe you forgot. You indulged in victim mentality and you stormed the Capitol. You indulged in it to such a degree that it took you deep, so far away from your internal vibration that next time around you still way off and you have to pull yourself back. It could manifest as a karmic challenge. And I was going to say, for some people it can be difficult. Now, here's the statistical reality of things. The statistical reality of things is that most people do not alter from their character. What is their character? Somebody's character is how you look at their behaviors and you predict how they are going to respond in life. And that can be positive or negative, selfish, whatever it is. People usually do not deviate from their character. And I'm here to say that their character is the result of the karmic challenge that they've either created or they indulged in a previous life. And so that's the Maya, the illusion. So life does try to hypnotize you into believing your, what's the word I use? I use the word authentic self and not programmed self, conditioned self. So the universe is working to, 24 hours a day, every moment of every day, it is working to hypnotize you into your conditioned self. Your conditioned self is the part of you that indulges in a victim mentality. You can't make it. Everybody's out to get you. Whatever it is, alien overlords, false beings of light, them, the media, the system, the whatever it is. That whatever mentality you buy into. Again, now you know why I get so angry when in the past couple of videos is because. When I hear people talking about that and they want to say the is doing this and they are doing that, it frustrates me because what I see is I see a soul that is trapped in its conditioned false self. It's trapped in its character. That's your character. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're born in a home with a physically abusive alcoholic father, it's going to create a character in you. And that character is going to be very, very hard to overcome. It's going to take a hell of a lot of discipline to overcome the pain, the trauma, the victim mentality, and all of the impulses and all of the reactions and all of the instincts that you will have had to create in order to survive your first 18 years of life. But that's the challenge. Once you become an adult, this is when, when I say all the time, I say it's time to grow up. Or if I tell somebody to grow the F up, you hear it as an attack. It's not. I'm saying that is your conditioned self. Grow beyond your conditioned self. Now, in order to do that, here's how do you get out of your conditioned self? The discipline to take the contrary action. How do you get the discipline to take the contrary action? You train yourself with daily discipline, whether that's yoga, meditation, mantra, making a bunch of crazy things with your hands like I do, going to the gym, working out, emptiness meditation. I don't care what the hell it is. Your discipline is training you to take contrary action to your conditioned self. Your conditioned self will be with you for the rest of your life. And some of you, your conditioned self is going to be stronger and more annoying than others. Somebody is born, ends up getting multiple personalities. That's a conditioned self. If somebody's born and they become a drug addict, that's part of their conditioned self. Now, the stimulation of those things aren't going to go away. You know, the guy from the movie A Beautiful Mind. You remember that? The guy who has, he's schizophrenic and he hears voices and hallucinates. And he decided to stop taking the medication, and he disciplined himself to just simply not listen to the hallucinations and the voices that were around him all the time. And if you see in the end of the movie, he's standing there talking to somebody, and somebody's talking to him, and he grabs somebody and he says, "Do you see this person?" And they say yes. So he knows that it's a real person and not an illusion. That's because he's constantly disciplining himself not to listen to the other hallucinations that are around him all the time, talking to him. And those hallucinations talking to him are his conditioned self. And as I understand it, that never went away. So yours, there aren't any excuses. There's no excuses. None. The universe will not allow you to get away with any excuses. Now, if all you're looking to do is be a good born-again Christian, then you're going to try and get God's approval and God's love and God's forgiveness, which means you're going to constantly be under the threat of being sinful and doing things wrong. So I want to make sure that you don't hear that the way that I talk, because it can sound like I'm saying you have to not sin. That's not what I'm saying. Because that mentality, the Abrahamic mentality of, Jehovah's constantly shaking his finger at you because you're a sinner and you're doing something wrong and you're not perfect, that doesn't get anywhere. Have you ever wondered why religious people, ironically, are the most judgmental, the most angry, the most cruel, the most hypocritical, when supposedly they are following true love? It's because of this. They don't have a carrot that they have to work toward. Besides the fact that they're constantly told that they're evil and they're sinful and they need God's forgiveness all the time, and the guilt of, Jesus died, so that they didn't have to be punished. On top of that, Jesus did all the work for them. So there's nothing left for them to accomplish. They just sit around and pray for God's will all day and then try not to do anything wrong in the meantime. So there's no carrot. Like I said, when I go to the gym and I'm pushing myself as hard as I can and my muscle fibers are screaming and I'm in pain, the carrot is my ego of, number one, feeling good, being healthy at my age, and then maybe I can go back and flex in the mirror and see if I got any bigger. There's a carrot. There's something that gives me joy. So if you don't have that carrot, then all you have is trying not to do something wrong, and that never works, ever. In acting, if you ever take acting lessons, you'll probably hear your acting teacher say, that's not a positive choice. You know, they'll say, what does your character want? And if you say, I just don't want to be angry right now, the acting teacher will say, that's not a positive choice. That's a negative. You can't play a negative. You have to have something positive. Oh, okay. Well, I want to get the job. All right. There's a positive choice. You have something to work towards. Your soul is that way. You have to have a positive goal. Now, the problem comes in when you don't know what that is. You don't know what your soul wants. This is very common. So what I teach in my book and in the videos entitled The Shamanic Secret, Commandment to a Perfect Life. In those videos on this channel and in the book by the same name, what I teach is that everybody has a soul desire. And the whole point is to live for your soul desire. Your soul desire it's not an option, it is a command. So people want to think in terms of what is God's will for me. Well, instead of thinking of what is God's will for you, again, that's not positive. Somebody could say, oh, God's will for you is for you to be miserable in a third world country. And you go, okay, if that's, I'll carry my cross if that's what God wants. And then you hate every second of it. That's not what I'm talking about. But it is a command. It is the command of your soul, which the universe, which is this matrix, also follows. Now, the universe around you knows what your soul wants. It knows because you created the universe. You created this matrix. So it's waiting patiently for you to give it the appropriate command. If you give it a command other than the one that you've programmed it to respond to, it may or may not respond. And this is what happens when people do conscious affirmations of whatever it is. I want to be a billionaire. I want to have 6 heads. Whatever it is, the universe is like, no, those aren't my orders. You gave me different orders. And you told me that I couldn't do anything but this thing written down. What is it? You told me not to tell you. You're supposed to figure it out. But the moment you figure it out, I'm going to give that exact thing that you're asking for. So you have to do the work. It's part of the video game. You got to do the work to figure out what it is you truly want. Now, it's not impossible to find that out. A lot of people can. I walk them through how to do that. There's questions that I ask, and when people get a career consultation, which is the same thing, I walk you through the questions that help you figure out exactly what it is that you want. And lots of times it's been with you the whole time. You went, that's it? Oh, okay. And then you go after that. The way that you know you're following your soul desire is that when you first think of it, maybe not the next day, but the first time that it comes to your mind and you think of it, you get this feeling of joy. That it just sounds like so much fun. That feeling of joy that sounds like so much fun is actually what's called inspiration. And you're allowed to have that because you're supposed to hold on to that and remember it. Because when you wake up the next day and you think about, yeah, what I want to do is I want to become the first woman something or other, blah, blah, blah. And wow, that sounds like so much fun. And you go, yeah. And then you think to yourself, because you feel all this joy, you go, wow, I'm going to remember this. This is so great. And then you wake up the next day and you go, what was it? I wanted to do what? What the hell was I thinking? I can't do that. That's impossible. I'm just going to forget that. So that's, again, part of the game. But that's the command. The command, like out in the field, whatever, the general or whoever it is gets the command, however they get it now, on the radio, take the hill. That's the command. Now he doesn't, once he's marching towards the hill to take the hill, he doesn't go, what was it I was doing again? I don't want to do that. That sounds like hard work. I might get shot. I don't want to take the hill now. I think he said something else. Did you say take the hill or not take the? No, I mean he gets the command. That's it. Once he sees it, he says yes sir, Roger, Wilco, and then he goes and does it. And it doesn't matter how he feels about it, or he got the command. It's over. Your soul gives you commands when you think of your soul desire and you feel this joy. And it could be anything. Mine is surfing. I'm here where I'm at, here in Queensland, Australia, and I live right across from the beach here. And I'm here because that's my soul desire, is to surf in warm, beautiful, uncrowded waters, walking through the rainforest every day and listening to parrots and kookaburras and all kinds of strange sounding animals. That's what makes me happy. It's not practical. I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm not saving the world. My whole life is geared around being able to make that my main thing in life. And it wasn't, lots of times your soul desire is not something easy to accomplish. Depending on your karma, you become, if you have even the karma to be aware of what your soul desire is, but then the work that you're going to have to do to achieve that might be really challenging. And then, of course, you have to go, the main thing is, the main lesson of the karma associated with your soul desire is that you're going to have to learn how to follow the integrity of your soul regardless of what anybody else around you says. And this is the biggest challenge. All of your friends, all of your family, your religion, your society, your culture might be telling you that your soul desire is wrong. You shouldn't do that. It's stupid. It's wrong. It's evil. And you're going to have to make a choice. You're going to have to choose between what your soul has told you it wants to do, and you know that because you got that joy, and now you're embarrassed in some cases. I don't want people to know, because if they knew, they'd judge me for it. And then you're going to have to make the choice to do it anyway. So what I said earlier is that the thing that keeps you in that perfect frequency of your perfect reality is your integrity. If you lose your integrity, you go off onto a different vibration. Now, there's nothing wrong with that either, because perfection is perfection, and the whole point of the game is that once you achieve perfection, you don't come back. Because I should stop playing that video game because I've mastered it. It's just how many ways can I master the video game? It's boring now. I want a new one. You're going to want a new experience in a whole other. You're not going to want to be human anymore. Then you'll become an ascended master or an angel or a god, or you'll go to some other universe and incarnate in some other completely different 5-dimensional world. I don't know. So I want you to think about, like when you look at a spectrum of colors. So I'm going to create one. I have no idea if this is how it works or not. But a spectrum of colors. And in the middle of this spectrum is pure white light. And then as you get further and further away from the center, it goes into a different shade of a different color. And then the colors on the ends will be, let's say, black, which is, quote, bad, in this example. The farther you are away from that center frequency, which is pure white light, the further you are away from, in some cases, the consciousness of your integrity. Now, the good news is that anybody in any lifetime, no matter how challenging, can achieve that perfect white light frequency. And there were some videos I made a while back which entitled "I'm Mahadeva, Time Traveler from Another Dimension," or Dimensional Traveler, something like that. And what I was trying to teach was that the reason why I give myself the spiritual name Mahadeva, there's a bunch of reasons for it. It's astrologically a good vibration for me, but it's the great light, Mahadeva, the great light. I give myself that name because that's what I want to do. I want to operate as much as possible from that perfect frequency of pure light. And when I do that, then everything flows around me. I mean, I've shared with you a bunch of times. The reason I ended up here in Australia living in this, I mean, I'm not going to brag about it again, but I mean, it's you know, how many people get to live like this? Reason that this has happened, and by the way, it was not only the easiest thing, but it was the only choice. Like, there literally is no other place for me to rent. If I were to rent something else, I mean, it wouldn't exist, or it would be more expensive. It's just the weirdest thing. I've got the best possible place to live that's available for somebody like me to rent, and it's the cheapest, and it's the best location, and it's the only one available. So the universe has just made the choice real clear. And I ended up here because I just had this itch a year and a half ago, actually more than like 2 years ago. I just had this itch. I had to get out. I had to get out of the United States. Where could I go where I can have, Southern California lifestyle? Where can I go? And then, I'll go try Australia. And I got rid of everything and sold everything and put some clothes and a surfboard in a suitcase, and I got on a plane without having any idea what the hell was going to happen. And then 6 months later, COVID hit. And I couldn't go back, and I wouldn't go back. And I've been able to stay here. Had I not left, I would have been trapped in hell. And I had no idea that my soul was telling me what to do. My soul was saying, okay, some really bad stuff's coming down. We're going to take you out of here, and we're going to put you where you really want to be. I've never had to wear a mask. Sometimes maybe some social distancing when things sound like they might get scary, and they never did. Never had to deal with anything. Cost me less money to live here. Socially, I'm better. I mean, I'm just better off in every possible way. And all it took was for me to just listen to my soul telling me what it wanted me to do. Now, what can you do to operate from that? That frequency of pure white light is right smack dab in the middle, but you have all of this spectrum. And the whole idea behind this game, this video game, is it's trying to seduce you into one of those other hues of light, one of those other colors. And there's no judgment there. You go over from the white into the blue, you have whatever experience you have there. You go from the white over to the orange or the purple. You try and stay away from the black, because that's the complete, lack of light. There's no light there whatsoever. But each time you go into one of those other hues and you experience it, there's a part of you that says, yeah, but there's something. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff I like, but there's something missing. So if you have that feeling that there's something missing and I can't put my finger on it, it's that you're not in that precise frequency of your highest ultimate self. When you operate from that, there's very little actions that you have to take, other than the actions that you want to take. When you're not in that, you have to take a bunch of actions you don't want to take. And again, using the word of character, people very rarely will change their character. Now, okay, so to make some people unhappy, I am going to, just for a second, again, my frustration with what happened at the Capitol, my frustration is that There literally is no more avenues of investigation. So people are saying we need to investigate and you're getting two sources of information. One is saying, no, it was fair. In fact, here's the quadrillion reasons and proof that we can show you why it was fair. You take that proof and you hand it to the people who honestly believe they've been lied to, and you put the proof right in front of them. It's still not enough. There's literally nothing that can be said anymore, because the argument is, show me the proof that I don't trust anything. Okay, well, here, let me give you all of the specifics. I still don't trust it. I mean, there's nothing to say anymore. That's frustrating. And I'm telling you, in my opinion, that is a result of their character. In this case, it is a character, it is a conditioned self that has been created, as I said in previous videos, as a result of 40 years of long, slow con job that has resulted in a society where even when you show somebody the truth, they can't accept it. Not because they're unwilling to, it's because they just simply can't decide within themselves what the truth is. And so the only thing they have left is whatever immediate emotion flies through them, whatever impulse. So if their impulses are telling them that they're being lied to, and the proof, the objective reality, is telling something else, they've been manipulated and hypnotized to only operate from, yeah, but my feelings tell me this. I remember once I dated a woman when I first got out here. I came to this spot. The universe was very good because I had a very brief online connection with a woman, and she said, you need to come out and see this place. And she looked hot, and we thought we were going to hook up. And I came out partly because I wanted to meet her, but I also wanted to see if I wanted to live here. And turned out that didn't work out. As it, in hindsight, she had some pretty serious psychological and mental issues, which made her do, strange, hurtful things. And I won't get into it, but when she's the thing that made me say, listen, I can't have any more contact with you, was that she did something really hurtful and irrational. And then she said, my simple truth is, and this is when it dawned on me. She said, my simple truth is whatever, excusing her crazy behavior. And I went, oh, so for her, whatever her feeling is reality. And so, I could have said, yeah, well, that's your simple truth, but here's the objective reality, and they don't line up. But I didn't, because I saw her character. And her character was that whatever emotion was flying through her is what she was going to do, and it didn't matter what the objective reality was. And that's not the character of somebody that you want to even be friends with. You're just asking for chaos and trouble. And so I said to her, I can't have any contact with you. We can't do this. In this lifetime, we're done. And that's because it was clear that she couldn't change her character. So I've also put a lot of effort into helping people understand that any kind of victim mentality doesn't work. The reason why you want to drop a victim mentality is because any flavor of victim mentality, which is something is doing it to you, even if that's your experience and your feeling, that is an assumption that creates a character, and that will keep you trapped in another frequency. So the idea is you want to make the choice to be in whatever frequency you are. That's the challenge. Not if we had the ability to make the choice to be perfect in pure bright white light and not operate from a conditioned self, we wouldn't be human. We would phase out of existence. This is what is happening when you hear stories about people who, they meditate and they get to a certain place of who they are and their body disappears and the only thing left is clothes and fingernails and hair. Because those are the things that, are, quote, dead. But everything else is alive. That has shifted to a different frequency, and they're in that frequency. And so the further, that's the place where you're in pure 100% bright white light. Everything that I'm teaching up here, everything that I'm teaching is what I am doing to try and help you do that. Other people do other things. But that's what I do, is to give you the ability to work directly with energy. This is what shamanism is about for me, is working directly with energy to create a dynamic balance. And some people ask me things like, do you know how to do weather magic and stuff like that? And it's like, no, I don't. But that's just because it's not my thing. Somebody else that was into weather magic, that would be the tool that they use to get to that place of perfect bright white light. Because in order to be a shaman that has enough power to change the weather, you have to be making that shift in your frequency to get back to that perfect, your perfect, not the perfect, your perfect frequency. And what takes you out of that is when you act in ways that are not within your integrity. And I can tell you, breaking into anybody's house and trashing their house and urinating on their things and committing violence against somebody, you can be quite certain those people are not vibrating from their highest, purest, bright white soul. They're operating from their conditioned self. Okay? Does that make sense? So this is the thing here, the thunderwizard.com. All of it is. All the other stuff is too, but this is the one. I'm refining it. I'm continuing to refine it. And again, I'm looking at my life. I can think of 2 or 3 things that I could add to my life which would make it that much better, which I'm working towards. But outside of that, really, there's just not a whole lot that I need to do. So I maintain what I have. I maintain what I have by, first of all, doing the thing that I love. And then there are other things. So let me get to the question. The question that stimulated me to do this, the person asked, is it possible to have more than one soul desire? And my answer to that question is, it's not a yes or no question. My answer to that question is that your soul has one main soul desire that creates, what's the word I'm looking for? An aspiration. It creates something that you want to work towards, that gives your life meaning. So there's a lot of things that I like. I like to feel good. I like my Good Earth decaffeinated tea. It's a lot of fun. There's all kinds of things that I like that give me comfort and happiness. Those things might be aligned with my soul desire. But I have one soul desire that gives me something to work towards, that gives me a goal toward which I want to follow. So you're different than me. So let's say, for example, your soul desire is to be a world famous musician. Well, that's pretty clear what to do. You write songs, you sing songs, you record songs, and you work towards becoming a famous musician. As long as you're working towards that, you become famous, you're going to want to get better and maintain that fame. It's your soul desire is driving you forward. It gives you an aspiration to drive towards. Drinking Good Earth tea is not going to drive me forward in my life. I enjoy it. I give it to myself. It's going to give me some comfort while I'm driving towards my greatest desire. Mine, and everybody's different. It doesn't make any sense. How can surfing, and that's not like I'm trying to become, world class, I'm too old for that now. I'm not trying to become, the next Jerry Lopez or anything. I'm just doing it because it's fun. And when I do it, I'm as happy as I can be. So everything in my life is designed towards that goal. This business, this video that I'm doing right now, this channel, which has become my business, I created not because I had this desire to be this online teacher. It wasn't my desire. It was, I want to live on the beach and I want to surf and I don't want to have to punch a time clock and I don't want to do anything I don't want to do. So how can I make money doing what I do anyway? That's one of my mantras. I make money doing what I would do anyway. I would do this anyway. All the things I teach, I would teach anyway. So now I have a carrot, because if I turn it into money and instead of just casually teach stuff, if I turn it into, the 90-day challenge and things like that, and I seek to give you the best, most advanced, cutting edge spiritual techniques to achieve your greatest happiness and evolution. If I do that, I can do whatever the hell I want, live wherever the hell I want, and make enough money so that my whole focus is to wait for, surfing season and just surf whenever I want. So you're different than me. So this is why, even though, the stuff that I do, I enjoy, I would do it anyway. But it's not the thing that has the most drive, that makes me drive, for that. So the answer to the question is, I think people are confusing their soul desire with just things that give them, distraction and comfort. And again, this is a personal process. Only you know what that is. Whenever I've done consultations with people, which in my experience so far, I've never had somebody I've done a consultation with where at least I didn't come to the conclusion of, okay, now I know what your soul desire is. Not that I figured it out, but you figured it out. There's been a few people that once they hear it, they deny it and they say, I don't want to do that. And that's very saddening to me, because then they're just choosing to live in their conditioned self. They're choosing to live in their character as opposed to their authentic self. And that saddens me to hear that. All the stuff that's happened this past week saddened me. The anger, when you see me expressing anger, the anger is my frustration because it's so unnecessary. And again, I see souls, these perfect souls walking around who are choosing to indulge in their, and I don't care who we're talking about, they're choosing to indulge in their conditioned self. And it's destructive and it's hurtful to everybody and it's sad. It's sad because it's so unnecessary. But that's part of, this life. It's just part of the, I get to watch that. And then I get to ask myself, how am I like that? What can I do to not be like that if what they're doing is something that brings them sadness and, all those guys that were, walking around the Capitol and carrying stuff and they were smiling and they were so happy, they're not so happy now. Some of them are now in jail, in federal prison, no less. They're not too happy anymore. So anyway, enough of that. I'm happy to take questions. This is a question and answer. I know most people are asleep across the world, but let's see. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. That's his website. You see him there? Vincent.thunderwizard.com. That's his website, and if you go to his website, you can get astrological reading. I don't know what else he does, but he's a certified astrologer on my site, and he has been certified by me to give readings. So if you want to go check out his website, feel free to do so. Vincent asks me a question. He says, "Hi Mahadeva, are there any remedies you would recommend for a debilitated Mars in Cancer in the 10th house? I have struggled with motivation towards my career all my life." Well, again, I wouldn't, if it were, I want to look at your whole chart, which I don't have in front of me. But, I want to look at your whole chart. So a remedy for that, if I just was making a remedy on that, again, we have to look at everything. We have to look at what your Mahadasha is. We have to look at, the 3 planets. We have to look at all that stuff. So you're a Libra ascendant. So what does that mean? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so Mars, you say it right there. I had to figure it out. It might help if I actually read it. You got Mars in Cancer in the 10th house. All right, so here's the thing about debilitation. It's just a word to describe something. Technically my ascendant is debilitated. My moon is technically debilitated because I was born on a new moon. But because I was born on a new moon, what that means is that I leak energy, like life force energy, like it just leaks out of me if I don't do anything. So what did that end up making me do? It made me love doing Qigong. It made me love it to such a degree that I was lucky enough to find the most powerful energy practice on the planet, which is the stuff that I'm reverse engineering for you guys. And so I end up having more power, more energy than even master Qigong people. And that's because my moon is technically debilitated because I was born on a new moon, and my moon is in my first house. Even though it's in Leo, Leo doesn't kick in because the sun is already debilitated in Virgo. So I'm debilitated in all these ways, but that debilitation is what opened up the door for me to actually experience the greatest energy and to be more powerful energetically than even, most Qigong masters. So your debilitation is not a problem unless you surrender to that. Your debilitation is showing you, it's narrowing the road so that you only have one direction you can go in, which will fix the problem, and then you'll be better off. You'll be better off than if you hadn't had that. So I want you to get rid of the negativity surrounding it. Debilitation is just a word, and it does describe, yes, Mars. First, Mars in the 10th house. That's one of the best places for Mars. You can't have a better placement in terms of house than the 10th house. That's the general. The general is now the king. And the 10th house is a upachaya house, which means it's going to get stronger over time. It's a house of action. It's a house of direct connection to the external world. So that right there, just because technically Mars is debilitated in Cancer, you have to take everything into account because Mars is in the 10th house. And Capricorn is behind it, right? So 7, 8, 9, 10. Capricorn is directly behind it. So that means you have the sign of Capricorn on the other side of that. So you got to look at everything. So you've got Mars in Cancer. That is a great sign for energy work. Because Cancer is the moon is energy work, Mars is the warrior. So, you have to look at it that way. This is the general who now has all of a connection to his emotions and to his intuitions. Is that ideal for a general? I mean, do you want a general out in the field who's crying because he's intuiting, all of the beautiful smell of the flowers? No, you don't want that. That doesn't mean that that isn't a powerful scenario for him. So you make the best of what you're given. So I want, again, I mean, the assumption in that question is that there's you're at a disadvantage and you're a victim, and I don't want you to feel that way. There's a blessing in that. Sorry for using that word, but there's a blessing in that is more powerful than even if Mars was, in Aries in the 10th house. Okay, you just have to find it. So it means you're going to have to listen and do the work. All right. You've struggled with motivation towards my career. See that? This is why it's good to have a consultation with me. Because that could mean anything. That could mean that there really is some karmic block to it and you're going in the wrong direction. It could mean that you're struggling and that you have unconscious conflict between what your soul wants and trying to please other people. It doesn't, that's so general to say I've struggled with motivation, but the question is, why are you struggling with motivation? You actually might be really motivated, but there might be a lot of unconscious guilt keeping you from going after it. And so you judge yourself and say, yeah, I struggle with motivation. There's another reason for that. And it'd be good if you had a consultation, and then I could help you with that. Himmel auf Erden. If you have a question in the future, do me a favor, write the word as you see Vincent did just above you. He wrote the word question in all caps. When we have lots of people on like we did yesterday, I miss a lot of questions because I scroll through most of the comments. I wouldn't have seen that if it wasn't so calm today. But you say, how do you let go of victim mentality? I gave you the book already. I wrote it up there, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. There are videos on this channel by that name. You can listen to me talk about it. Anything having to do with manifestation mastery course on this channel, I talk about doing that. So how do you let go of it? You start, even if you go to thunderwizard.com and you sign up at the lowest level and you start at video 1, the first thing I teach you to do is, first thing you have to do is drop all the victim mentality. So you can't necessarily turn off the feeling because, again, that's your conditioned self. You feel you're a victim, they're doing it to you, whatever your victim mentality is. So you can't just snap your fingers and make that feeling go away. So what you do is you say, all right, this is how, first off, you go and like write it out. You could do a journal and write out all the ways that you feel you're victimized. And then then imagine, okay, what if what if the opposite of that were true? So you look at your actions. Like, I've talked about this before, but my brother is my greatest teacher because he's the most miserable person I've ever known. And to be honest, I don't even know if he's even alive anymore. He could be dead for all I know. I don't know. But he was absolutely, utterly, horribly miserable, and I watched him sabotage his life, his whole life. We both grew up in the same house, so I know why, because I have the same conditioned self he does. I've just made different choices in my life than he did. But he always looked for reasons to justify why he was poor, broke, miserable, whatever it was. He always justified it. And he always talked about how everybody was doing it to him, including me. If you were to find him now and talk to him, he would tell you that I did it to him. His younger brother, I'm 5 years younger than him, I ruined his life. He'll still tell you that. Unless he's had a change of character, which I doubt. So whenever I am afraid, and this is again, Vincent, you can use this as well. Whenever I'm afraid to do something, I stop and I say, what would my brother do? And then I listen to the voice. I listen to him, talk about how, oh, they're doing it to you. Like, for instance, just an easy one. I see a really beautiful woman, and we've talked, and I feel this really strong attraction to her, and she's out of my league, and all of that. So I would then, in that fear, I would say, okay, my brother, his name, I would mention his name, and I would say, what do you think I should do? And I listen to the voice. Of course, I'm not hearing a voice, but I imagine, I know, I have a pretty good idea what he would say. Oh, women like that, they're just after money, and you're not rich enough for her. And by the way, she's just looking to use you for this and that, and you're American, and he'd come up with all of these reasons why I should just not even bother. And then I'd say, what should I do? Oh, you should definitely don't bother asking her out. You shouldn't ask her out. You should just turn around and forget you ever saw her. So I do the opposite. As much as everything in me totally agrees with what that part of me just said, I do the opposite. So I ask myself, what would somebody who was confident, who was all the opposite of all those things? What if all the opposite of that is true? What if she's tired of the fact that she's so hot and nobody asks her out? What if it's that she's so tired of all these rich doctors coming up and asking her out, and she just wants to just hang out and live on a beach house, and she's not about money, she's just looking for somebody that will see her for who she truly is and stop objectifying her? What if the truth is that she's sitting there just waiting for anybody to ask her out? What would I do then? Well, if I knew that, I'd ask her out right now. So you talk yourself into doing the opposite of what all of your instincts are telling you to do, all of your impulses. And what's the worst that could happen? She could say no. Then I'd be no worse off than I was now. So you do that with everything. You want to become a musician. You want to become Mr. Olympia. You want whatever it is you want to do. It's totally impossible. Everything around you, inside and outside of you, is telling you not to do it. You want to do it, you say, okay, so what if I were confident? What if it was easy? What if I was meant to do it? Then what would I do? And then you do that thing. And again, what's the worst that can happen? You won't be any worse off than you are now. So the victim mentality is a feeling. This is what I was trying to talk about yesterday and the day before, is that you go up to a Trumper and you say, no, here's the proof. I know that you don't like it, but here's the proof. Trump is lying to you that actually, he lost the election. They don't want to know the truth. They want to know that their feelings are valid. They can't tell the difference between their feeling and objective reality. And so when you bring objective reality to them, what they think is that you're telling them that their feelings are no good and that they don't exist. And that's infuriating. Nobody likes to be told that they don't exist and that their feelings don't matter, which is really all that thing, yesterday or a couple days ago at the Capitol. That was a bunch of people who were wanting you to know that they existed and that they mattered and that their voice and that their feelings matter. That's what that was all about. And so we have a feeling. So you have a victim mentality, that's a feeling. That feeling is not reality. The reality is that you are infinite, you are multidimensional, you are omnipotent, and you came here to accomplish perfectly what your soul wants. The feeling, which is your conditioned self telling you that, no, you're a victim of this and you can't do that and they're out to get you, that feeling is just that. It's just a feeling. It doesn't have to be true. You act as though the opposite is true. And the universe around you is not interested. I have to be clear about this. The universe around you is not going to reward you based on your feelings. The universe is going to reward you based on your actions. Now, while you're taking those actions, you can have whatever feeling is going through you. Again, the guy with the big horns on his head, the Q shaman guy, painted guy who went through he's in federal jail right now. He's in federal jail, and whatever feelings he was having that day when he, breached the Capitol, those feelings did not result in him being rewarded for those feelings. His actions are giving him something of an unpleasant reward. So flip it around. You feel like you can't do that. You feel like that's impossible. You take the action completely opposite that feeling, assuming that action is toward your greatest good. If I had listened to you can watch, there's a video, at least one or two videos while I'm in the transition period and I'm still in California. And there's at least one or two videos where I've already told people what I plan to do, and you guys will see what happens. I don't know if this is going to work out or not, but I'm following my soul desire, and we'll see. It's a year and a half ago. You have to go back, a couple of years. And there's one or two where I'm saying, yeah, it's coming close, and I'm wondering if I should even do this or not. Maybe I should just stay here. And I even say, everything in me is telling me to just not do this and to stay in California and save the money. And I'm telling you, I'm really scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it paid off. The action paid off. I had an acting teacher years ago, and he said something I'll never forget. He said, "The world is not interested in excuses, only results." Now, that sounds like a harsh thing to say, but what he meant by that was how you're feeling at the moment is not what's important. It's what you do. The actions that you take is what's important. How you feel is not. Because people say, I feel this way. People, when I have consultations with people and we both together realize what it is that they're supposed to do, create their own business, making widgets or whatever it is, they will oftentimes say after, because then the next day or a week later, then of course they're doubting everything and they don't feel like they can pull it off and they're afraid. And they'll talk to me and say, you know what, I'm going to wait until I feel like I can pull this off, or I'm going to wait until I can afford it. And I say, you'll be waiting the rest of your life. It's never going to feel good. You had that moment of inspiration where you felt that joy and you knew what it was. That's your command. You have to go do it. You don't wait until you feel good. Again, this is why I'm so frustrated with everything. Everybody's operating from how they're feeling, and their feelings are more important than objective reality. And this is the direct result of Christianity, which tells you, wait around for God's will. God will tell you what to do. And that's the same as saying, I'm going to wait around until I don't have any doubts anymore. When I feel confident, and then you pray, God, give me confidence to do this. And the universe goes, what are you talking about? This is your thing, your soul desire. I'm here to help you. What do you mean? You want me to give you confidence to do the thing you told me to help you do? What's going on here? So the universe goes, you sit around and you wait to feel good and you try to change your thoughts with, maybe you do. Somebody tries to change their thoughts with positive affirmations and it doesn't change anything or give them the ability to take action. And the universe is sitting there with that, that golden goose going, did you want this? You have to come and take it. Do you want it? And you go to the universe, give me the strength to feel good. And the universe is like, I don't understand. I thought, because the universe thinks that you're God. The universe doesn't know that you've forgotten your God. It doesn't know that. So it gets confused when you start asking it to feel worthy of something. So you learn how to take actions regardless of your feelings, is the point. You have another question here. How do you not feel hurt by what other people are doing? Well, again, who said you're supposed to not be hurt by what other people are doing? I mean, you feel however you feel. I mean, I don't know your background. I don't know where you came from. I don't know your conditioned self. So, there are some people that are so conditioned to feel badly about things that, let's say, somebody who's got borderline personality disorder, for example, which means that they're constantly afraid of being rejected, among other things. And what will happen is that they will project onto you, when you're feeling full of love for them, they will project onto you that you hate their guts. So you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I can't wait to get home because I want her to watch her favorite show, which is on in what time? In 10 minutes, and you look at your watch. And they think you looked at your watch because you said, I can't wait to get the hell out of here and get away from this person. I'm planning to break up with them, and I'm going to do it in 5 minutes. And so they flip out on you and they say, I can't believe you looked at your watch. I hate you so much. You're the worst person in the world. I loved you, and here you are rejecting me. And the person says, no, I actually wanted to give you a diamond ring in 10 minutes. I wanted to look at my watch. So the fact that you feel hurt, I feel for you. Nobody likes to feel hurt, but it's just your feeling. It's not reality. And, feeling hurt by what other people doing, I can't talk you out of that feeling, and I wouldn't. But you're asking me, how do I change my feelings? The only way to change your feelings is through actions, repeated, continuous actions. So, learning how not to be hurt by what other people doing. I mean, besides all of that, the truth is you need some counseling, because those are pretty serious, emotional issues. You need to work with a psychologist, a counselor, because that'll debilitate your whole life. If you're walking around your whole life being hurt by what other people are doing, that's no way to live. It means that there's some really serious childhood issues that went on that programmed you to be like that. So I can't give you the magic answer. You say blah 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 and you won't be hurt anymore. You take the blue pill and it won't. I'm not going to try and simplify it like that. Everything I teach will help you to do that, but the short answer is that who said you were supposed to not be hurt by what other people do? You do what you do regardless of how other people make you feel. You follow your own happiness. Because at some point, people will hurt you and they will disappoint you. And sometimes people will hurt you and disappoint you because you are going after what you want. Not all the time, but depending on your family and your friends and your society, it might be a big deal. So you're going to have to learn to have your hurt feelings and still take actions toward your soul. Again, that's what the book and the channel is all about. A56 cold question. With no planet in the Arudha Lagna, how the Aruda manifests? It manifests, who was it? Vincent said he had Mars in Cancer in the 10th house. Now let's say that was his Aruda. If you took Mars out of it, it would be Cancer in the 10th house. So if that was your Aruda, then it would be the sign of Cancer in the 10th house, which would mean somebody who externally presents themselves to the world as a healer, a nurturer, because Mars is like the mother. It's the moon, the healing, nurturing aspect of the moon. So you're overthinking it. You don't have to have a planet in that house for it to do anything. Just because there isn't a planet there doesn't mean that the house and the sign aren't accomplishing things. Because nobody has a planet in every single house. In fact, the majority of your houses are going to be empty. Doesn't mean that there aren't things happening. So you look at what the planetary aspects are. You do all the things you would normally do. So you treat the sign as a planet. So in terms of, like I said, if it was Cancer in the 10th house, did you say what sign it is? You didn't. Anyway, let's say you say, is it more the sign of the Aruda and whatever aspects that house has, or more the lord of the Aruda. It's not a more, it's, I mean, just basic astrological things. It's not an either or, it's all of that. So I was about to say, you look at the sign. What does the sign represent? What does that sign represent in that house? What is that going to do? And then you look to see where the lord of that is. So in that case, you would look to see, where is the moon? Is the moon in the third house? Is the moon happy? Is it debilitated? You know, that's all going to give the flavor of how you are presented to the world. And if it's negative, quote unquote, that works in your favor. So for instance, let's say it was Rahu in the 8th house in Scorpio. Let's say that was somebody's Aruda. That's bad. That's like the black magician, con man, evil. You know, that's what those significations were. So if that's your Aruda, it means that people see you as this black magician, con man. There's nothing you'll ever be able to do to make people not see you that way. Now, because it's your Aruda, it is your strength, which means if you go, oh, this is how people see me, then if you walk around with black, like a shaved head and black eye makeup and a tattoo on your face, and you walk around with a snake-headed staff and you laugh maniacally, people will love it. And they'll go, ha, I love that guy. Hey, I want you to be my head of sales. Now, if it's not your Aruda, then it's going to be frightening to people. So you would want to find a way to find a remedy for that. But when it's your Aruda, you become that, and you just show that. So yeah, so you're trying to, you're asking me questions sort of like that. It's not either or, it's a combination of both of those things. Bharani, is that Iduna? Bharani Iduna. Question: the Yoruba shamanic drumming tradition you practice, would you ever teach patterns of it to tap into the knowledge, power, and wisdom and the well of Urd? Would I teach that? So you're asking me multiple questions. Would I ever teach that? Yeah, I've taught it multiple times throughout my life. I'd be teaching it now if I had students. I'm just too lazy to put together another class. And also because I haven't known if I'm going to be leaving, or I could come up with excuses. I teach it a lot. I mean, am I teaching it to tap into the well of Urd? I mean, that would be one way to do it. I'm not consciously thinking about tapping into the well of Urd, but that is something that would happen as a result. So would I do it? Yes, I would. I have, and I'm sure I'll do it again in the future. Let's see, yeah, feelings based on, so fear is, yeah, fear, the acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. As cheesy as that is actually pretty good. All right, so I don't see any more questions here. Again, it's the middle of the night for everybody, so the message that I want to give that I haven't given yet in this video is that you have power of choice over vibrating from your highest, most perfect frequency. But you have to make choices. And again, I'm going to talk about those guys that sacked the Capitol. There's not a one of them that isn't full of fear. There's not a one of them that isn't operating from a victim mentality. Not a one. Because the assumption that they have to forcibly go in and commit violence and mayhem in order to keep their president, all of that, the assumption of all of that is that they're victims and they have to fight, because if they don't fight, it's going to be taken from them. And again, like I said, more and more of those people are going to end up in federal prison as a result of that action based on their fears. So it's okay to have a victim mentality. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel exactly like what I'm imagining they feel like as I describe it. because I've felt all those things. There isn't anything that I point fingers at that I haven't experienced in my life. But something started to shift when I became conscious of something that I was doing. I was doing it unconsciously. But I became aware that what I was doing is that I was choosing to act as though I was completely, totally being taken care of, even though all of my feelings and all of my external reality were telling me the opposite. And I found that when I took actions based on that assumption, not on the feeling, because here's the difference. A feeling you don't have any control over. It just overtakes you. An assumption is something you choose to believe. It's a foundational belief of how the universe functions that you choose to believe in. Christians do it. The assumption of a Christian is that God hates you, you're sinful, you're going to hell, and so you need Jesus in order to live. And that's why when people go to Christian church, that's why tears stream down their face and they talk about how they felt Jesus entered their body. It's because their assumption was so horrible that either they came with that or they were convinced and they took on an assumption that was so horrible that when somebody then gave them the magic pill, oh, just say this prayer and you'll be saved, the relief from that assumption is so much that people cry and see God and all whatever else. But it starts with the assumption, and they take action on that assumption. It's also an assumption to believe. This is why Christianity says you have to believe. Christianity is all about an assumption. You have to believe that you're sinful and that Jesus died on the cross and was raised from the dead for your sins. And if you accept this assumption in your mind, you'll be saved. Okay, so there are people that don't feel worthy of love. They don't feel like they're going to be saved. They don't feel any of those things, but they accept the assumption that they're being given. And just by accepting that assumption and taking action towards it, saying the sinner's prayer or repenting from whatever their sins are, those actions then create their new emotional reality. So if you start with an assumption that you not only are not a victim, but that you are in fact the creator of the universe, that you are in fact infinite God, and that if you can become conscious, this is the most important part of it, if you are able to become conscious of what this infinite God within you wants to do, then the whole universe will bow and serve you. Now, if you've noticed in that assumption, never did I say, and you'll stop having fear, or you'll stop feeling this. I've never said that. But then you start to learn the difference between external reality and your internal feelings. And this is something I deal with all the time. This is why I keep talking about, when I brag about how great my life is. I'm not doing that because I'm trying to get anything from you or compare myself to you or any of that. It has nothing to do with my ego. I'm doing that to remind myself that objective reality is giving me a message that is completely contrary to all of the fears and insecurities that run around inside of me all day, every day. So if you think that I'm up here on my saying that, and I'm, this and don't have any fear and there's no victim mentality, it's not because I've purged myself of all those feelings. No, quite the opposite. In fact, if you catch me at the wrong time, I'll tell you how miserable and horrible I am and how life has it in for me. And I have the same thing. In fact, sometimes the more success I get, the worse I feel. And then I have to stop and go, is there anything external going on that I need to be upset about? No, in fact, quite the opposite. In fact, if I can pull my head out of my ass, I can go grab my surfboard and walk down to this perfect tropical beach and there's that beautiful woman in a bikini and the water is warm and what the hell was I so upset about? Your internal reality is not necessarily going to match your external reality, but external reality is the truth. Now, you can change that external reality if you do something stupid like put on some cow horns and break into the Capitol, and then your external reality will change very quickly. But am I making sense? Point is that you can shift that vibration to your highest awareness. And if you can tolerate your feelings, I want you to have them. Never have I said and never will I say to stuff your feelings. I'm not saying that. If you're hearing me say that, please listen again. Your job is to have all of your thoughts and feelings, 100%. You're to have all of your thoughts, feelings, impulses, and desires without any judgment. You are to love yourself, which is an action, not a feeling. You are to love yourself in all of your thoughts, feelings, impulses, and desires. And you are to take conscious action towards what is most healing and constructive for you and everybody else. That is your job. If you do that, external universe will reward you with health, happiness, prosperity. I mean, the health that I have is really amazing. I mean, it blows my mind how healthy I am at any age. Forget it at my age, at any age. But that is a sign. Now, I have a lot of feelings. Sometimes my feelings are really intense and overwhelming and frightening. But I'm conscious of them. They're not stuffed down. And if I let them, like waves or like the weather, change, because they will, what remains is the reward that I get. Good health, good finances, good everything else. Okay, so you can choose to shift your reality. The first thing you do is you change your assumption. And even though your assumption is completely opposite to your feelings, and you take actions based on that assumption, and even the feelings that are created as a result of you taking that opposite action to your assumption, always reality test, always. I'll give you another example. Somebody, slams heroin. Now they're going to feel really good. Especially at first, they're going to feel really good about that. What's the external reality? Is that they're going to end up addicted, they're going to end up throwing up, they're going to end up, having liver problems and could die from a heart seizure. The physical world is going to give the opposite of rewards. It's going to give you penalties for that action, which gave you this really great feeling. But when you're having the feeling and you're high, everything is wonderful because that's how you feel. When, objective reality is saying, no. Actually, no, you just put a lot of garbage into your kidneys and you're going to throw up in 10 seconds and you better not be, lying with your head back or you're going to suffocate to death. And this is where we need to grow up. When I say we need to grow up or grow the F up, it means take a look at your feelings and compare them to objective reality. You want objective reality to be what you're working towards while having all of your feelings. All right, I'm repeating myself. Anything else? Are we all done? I think we're all done. All right, guys, that's it. Again, the 90-day challenge. This is a good time to get started because if you choose to, you can subscribe for the year and you'll get 2 months off just because you decided to do it for the year. Of course, subscribe, smash the bell button, and that's it. All right. See you guys next time. See, what am I looking for? I am looking for something. I'm looking for an end screen, and let's try this one. Nope, that one doesn't work. Let's try another one. How about that one?